Hello there and welcome back to the Sleep Science, where your pillow is the portal and your eyelids are the curtains rising on the brain's most secret experiments. Tonight, you're going to drift through the surreal laboratory of your own mind, the dreamscape. Close your eyes for a second and imagine the feeling. Your room is still, maybe a faint hum from your fan, maybe the glow of the streetlight seeping through the blinds. You surrender to gravity and warmth, and suddenly, the hard edges of reality begin to dissolve. The walls bend, time slides sideways, and before you know it, you're being chased by a giant marshmallow that somehow also looks like your boss. That's right, you've slipped into the brain's most mysterious trick, dreaming. And spoiler alert, you probably won't survive this night's dream world with your dignity intact. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop a comment with your location and local time. I love knowing which corner of the globe you're listening from, whether it's 2 a.m. in New York, sunrise in Sydney, or that suspicious hour in the middle of nowhere when the fridge makes noises you swear are footsteps. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The funny thing about dreams is that no matter how advanced we get, rockets to Mars, AI writing your emails, self-checkout machines judging you for buying frozen pizza again, we still don't really know why we dream. The ancient Mesopotamians thought dreams were divine telegrams, coded notes from the gods. Fast forward a few thousand years, and neuroscientists say, maybe it's just your brain running a simulation to keep you sharp. Both ideas are equally poetic if you ask me. But either way, your head becomes a cinema every night, and you don't even need overpriced popcorn. Think about this. On average, you spend about 6 years of your life dreaming. 6 full years wandering impossible landscapes, reliving awkward conversations from middle school, or accidentally inventing entire universes that vanish the moment your alarm shrieks. Historians still argue whether prehistoric people interpreted dreams as direct reality or as symbolic messages. But one thing's clear, humans have been obsessed with their midnight movies since the beginning. There are cave paintings that some scholars believe might represent dreams, visions of animals half real, half myth, drawn from the mind's theater. And even today, you still wake up whispering, "What on earth was that about?" Let's linger on the sensory side for a moment. You close your eyes and at first there's only darkness. But the darkness isn't empty, it's buzzing. Neurons fire in patterns, electrical storms ripple through your cortex. Slowly, images stitch themselves together. A hallway stretches, a door appears, and suddenly you're walking barefoot through a school you've never attended, somehow late for a test you never studied for. The weirdest part, your brain doesn't care that none of it makes sense. In fact, the nonsense is part of the package deal. Dream logic is like that one friend who says, "Don't worry, it'll work out," then hands you a unicycle and points to a mountain trail. Of course, dreams aren't all whimsical. Enter nightmares, the brain's idea of tough love. Historians still argue whether early humans treated nightmares as curses or as warnings of danger. But here's a quirky tidbit. The ancient Egyptians had a dream book, basically the original nightmare decoder ring, that claimed if you dreamed of your teeth falling out, it meant family trouble ahead. Honestly, it's either that or your dentist is psychic. As you relax deeper, remember that even modern science struggles with definitions. Is a dream just random firing neurons? Or is it the mind's way of experimenting, solving problems, rehearsing survival? Some psychologists think dreams are emotional rehearsals, like your brain is the ultimate improv theater troupe. Okay, tonight we're going to practice running from wolves. Ready, go. Meanwhile, neuroscientists counter, or maybe it's just noise in the system. This debate has been going on for decades, and spoiler alert, it's not ending anytime soon. But while the experts keep arguing, you keep snoozing. Every night you embark on strange adventures. You've probably had the classic falling dream, that sudden drop that yanks you awake in a half spasm like your body just tried to eject you from the mattress. Or maybe you've had the flying dream, wings spread, soaring over rooftops. Fun fact, Leonardo da Vinci used to sketch flying machines inspired partly by his dreams. And in a more fringe tidbit, Napoleon supposedly claimed he could predict battles based on what he dreamed the night before. Did he win every time? Not exactly, but hey, confidence is half the fight. The brain's midnight experiments aren't just random entertainment. They're experiments in identity, fear, creativity, and memory. They test scenarios you didn't ask for, replay moments you forgot, and sometimes throw in a dance sequence with people you barely know. Dreams are messy, unpredictable, often hilarious, and yet deeply human. So tonight, as you let your breathing slow and the room soften around you, remember, you're about to enter a laboratory older than civilization itself. No tickets required, no consent forms signed, just your brain, your body, and the strange experiments that unfold in silence. And as the edges of consciousness blur, you'll find yourself asking the timeless question, is this nonsense, or is this truth disguised in metaphor? You don't have to answer, just drift. You slide deeper into the mattress, your breathing steady, and the hum of the outside world fades like someone turning down the volume on a radio. Your body might look motionless, but your brain has just decided to throw the wildest after-hours experiment. Neurons spark, chemicals dance, and suddenly you're inside a place that doesn't exist, but feels absolutely real. This, right here, is where the big question kicks in. What is a dream exactly? On paper, the definition seems easy. A dream is a sequence of thoughts, images, sensations, and emotions that occur during sleep. That's the tidy textbook version, the one that makes it sound like you've just opened a boring slide deck. But the actual experience, it's more like waking up inside a surreal movie, directed by your brain, written by a team of interns on too much caffeine, and starring you, except sometimes you're also a fish. For decades, scientists tried to figure out whether dreams were pure nonsense, just neurons firing randomly, or whether they were meaningful rehearsals, little cognitive experiments designed to help you adapt and survive. Historians still argue whether ancient civilizations believed dreams were true journeys of the soul leaving the body, or whether they were messages from spirits. Some records from the Greeks show philosophers like Aristotle thought dreams were simply the body processing daily sensations, like echoes reverberating in the dark. Meanwhile, across the ocean, the Iroquois believed that failing to act on a dream's command could lead to misfortune. Two very different takes, one dry and logical, the other deeply mystical. But here's the wild part. Even today, with all our brain scans and electrodes, we're still guessing. Neuroscientists call dreams subjective phenomena, which is science speak for. We can't really pin this down without ruining the magic. Your mind generates worlds, characters, and emotions using the same neural machinery it uses to build reality when you're awake. That means, in a sense, dreaming is a rehearsal of being alive, just stripped of physics, continuity, and sometimes clothing. Think about those odd transitions in your own dreams. You're eating spaghetti at a cafe, then suddenly you're late for an exam in high school, even though you graduated a decade ago. Your brain doesn't apologize for the plot holes. It just keeps rolling, confident you'll go along with the nonsense. And you do until the alarm goes off. That's the dream's secret. It convinces you completely in the moment, only for you to wake up and say, "Wow, that was dumb." Let's zoom in for a second, literally into the brain. During dreaming, particularly REM sleep, your visual cortex lights up almost as much as when you're awake. That explains the vivid imagery, the color, the sense of movement. But your prefrontal cortex, the rational decision-making part, is kind of on vacation. That explains why you accept the absurd. Flying bus, sure. Talking toaster, of course. Wearing pajamas to a board meeting, perfectly fine. Your logic circuits are muted, so the dream script runs without interruption. Now for a quirky tidbit. Did you know most people dream in real time? That means if you dream you're walking down a street for 5 minutes, that sequence takes about 5 actual minutes of sleep. No fast forwarding, no time skips, except that, occasionally, your brain fakes you out by compressing entire lifetimes into a few moments. People have reported dreams that felt like years of lived experience, only to wake up after a 30-minute nap. It's as if your brain owns the master key to time dilation and just uses it to mess with you. Historically, this real-time debate has been hot. In the 1960s, researchers asked lucid dreamers, those who know they're dreaming, to move their eyes in predetermined patterns while asleep. The dreamers did it, and the patterns matched the real-world time. Boom, evidence that at least some dream activity happens on the clock. Still, scientists argue whether all dream sequences obey that rule, or if some are compressed montages. The jury's out, but your brain doesn't care. It's too busy building another dragon-riding sequence. So what are you really experiencing when you dream? Some theories say it's memory consolidation. You're filing away the day's events, and dreams are the mental doodles on the margins. Others say it's emotion regulation. You face fears in the safe sandbox of imagination. And then there's the fringe view that dreams are tiny rehearsals for alternate versions of your life, as if the brain is stress testing a million what-ifs. Imagine your brain as a mad scientist running A/B tests while you sleep. Let's see what happens if she shows up to work on a unicycle. Huh, fascinating. Run it again. There's also this charmingly odd idea. Dreams may help you practice social scenarios. Because humans are hypersocial creatures, some researchers argue your dreams simulate conversations, conflicts, and interactions to keep you sharp. Basically, your brain is throwing nightly rehearsal dinners for situations that may or may not ever happen. The result? You wake up with no memory of the rehearsal, but maybe a tiny bit better at surviving awkward small talk. And here's a fact to keep in your pocket. Most people dream 4 to 6 times a night but forget 95% of it. You're only catching the tip of the iceberg when you recall a fragment. Underneath, your brain been running a full festival of strange events, complete with side plots, cut scenes, and deleted footage. You just don't get to see the extended edition. As your eyelids grow heavier, think of your mind as a theater troupe that never stops rehearsing. Sometimes the performance is comedy, sometimes horror, sometimes avant-garde experimental nonsense. But every single night, your brain is staging its secret experiments, and you're always the star, even if you don't remember the show in the morning. Your body sinks deeper, your pulse slows, but inside your skull, the orchestra of electricity doesn't rest. In fact, it's about to get flashy. If dreams are the stories, then brain waves are the projectors, flickering patterns that bring everything to life. You might not notice them, but right now your neurons are humming along in rhythms that would put most DJs out of business. Each stage of sleep plays to a different beat, and tonight you're riding them like a roller coaster through the neon amusement park of consciousness. Let's start with the basics. Your brain produces electrical signals that naturally fall into rhythms: delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma. They sound like a family of Greek gods, but they're really just different speeds of electrical pulses. Delta waves are the slow giants, lumbering like elephants through deep sleep. Theta waves are dreamy, floaty, often linked to creativity and imagination. Alpha waves are that chill vibe you get just before sleep or while daydreaming. Beta is your workhorse rhythm, fast, focused, the one buzzing when you're stressing about emails. And gamma, that's the rapid-fire burst, tied to perception and problem solving. Now when you dream, especially in REM sleep, you're cruising mostly on theta waves with sprinkles of gamma. It's like your brain is blending mellow jazz with unexpected dubstep drops. This combo creates the weird vividness, relaxed enough to hallucinate freely, active enough to weave a plot, however nonsensical. Historians still argue whether the ancient Chinese were the first to associate dreams with these inner rhythms. But we do know Taoist philosophers believed that sleep was a portal where the spirit roamed while the body rested, carried along by invisible flows of energy. Not exactly EEG machines, but oddly poetic. A quirky tidbit here. In the 1930s, when scientists first discovered these wave patterns, they weren't studying dreams at all. They were just measuring brain activity and accidentally stumbled on the fact that sleeping people's brains were weirdly active. One researcher even thought his machine was broken because the sleeping subject's brain looked more busy than when awake. Imagine expecting silence and instead finding a rave happening behind closed eyelids. So what do these bizarre patterns actually do? Think of them as filters. Delta waves in deep sleep scrub your brain clean, literally. They're linked with the glymphatic system, which flushes out metabolic junk, like running the dishwasher on your neural kitchen. Then, as you shift into lighter sleep, theta and gamma take over, and suddenly the brain starts splicing together memories, emotions, and imagination. That's when dreams bloom, stitched from scraps of your day and stitched with threads of nonsense. And here, where it gets fun. Scientists can sometimes guess what you're dreaming about by analyzing which parts of the brain are lighting up. If the visual cortex is firing like fireworks, chances are you're seeing vivid scenes. If the amygdala, the fear hub, is glowing, welcome to Nightmare City. And if your motor cortex is buzzing, you're probably sprinting through a dream forest, or at least trying to. Don't worry, your body stays paralyzed so you don't accidentally karate kick your nightstand. But let's sprinkle in something odd. Theta waves aren't just for sleep. Monks meditating, artists brainstorming, and even gamers in the zone often show bursts of theta activity. Some fringe researchers even argue that dreaming and creativity are fueled by the same rhythmic soup. So when you wake up with a bizarre but brilliant idea, you can thank the theta train for carrying it back from the dream station. There's still debate, though. Some neuroscientists think dreams are just random byproducts of these oscillations, meaningless static, like when your phone picks up interference from a microwave. Others argue that the patterns are deliberate rehearsals, shaping who you are. Historians still argue whether Aristotle was closer to the truth when he called dreams residues of waking impressions, or whether they're more like future blueprints. The jury's out, and honestly, the jury probably fell asleep during deliberation. Now imagine yourself watching your own brainwave chart during sleep. First, slow mountain-like waves, delta, carrying you into deep oblivion. Then lighter, rolling theta, painting strange dreamscapes. Then sudden bursts of REM, eye flickers beneath your lids, gamma sparks like camera flashes. It's not a straight line, more like a looping roller coaster. Down into stillness, up into chaos, back again. And somehow, you survive every loop without spilling your popcorn. Here's a fact worth whispering. During REM, your brain activity can actually match or exceed your waking state, which means when you dream of running, climbing, falling, or even arguing with your ex about who gets the couch, your neurons are firing almost as intensely as if it were really happening. No wonder you sometimes wake up exhausted. You just finished starring in an action film your subconscious wrote overnight. And tucked inside this electrical storm are the mysteries we still haven't cracked. For instance, why do some people have recurring dreams? Same hallway, same monster, same exam. Some scientists say it's stuck memory circuits reactivating. Others think it's the brain testing the same scenario again and again, waiting for you to change your response. Or maybe your neurons just enjoy reruns. Either way, those brain waves are the loops keeping the story alive. So as you lie here, drifting with the rhythm of your own neural tides, picture the patterns. Slow waves scrubbing, fast waves sparking, all in service of those strange midnight experiments. Your skull holds an entire electrical symphony, and tonight it's playing for an audience of one. You. You twitch slightly, maybe your hand, maybe just the flick of an eyelid, but inside your skull, the show is still roaring on. Dream sequences unspool with color and motion like the brain's private film festival. And yet, when the alarm clock goes off, it all melts faster than ice cream on asphalt in July. You sit up, rub your eyes, and try to recall what felt so vivid moments before. Something about a train. No, a parade. Wait, why was your grandmother juggling flamingos? It slips away, leaving you with nothing but a lingering mood. Welcome to the great disappearing act of dreams. Forgetting dreams is almost universal. Studies suggest you lose about 95% of your dream content within minutes of waking. That means last night you probably starred in at least 5 surreal adventures, and all you carried back was a foggy aftertaste. It's like spending the night at a carnival, but only bringing home the smell of popcorn. Why does this happen? One reason is neurochemistry. While you're awake, your brain uses high levels of norepinephrine to stamp memories into long-term storage. It's like sticky notes for experience. But during REM sleep, the big dream stage, norepinephrine drops dramatically. Your brain is busy weaving imagery and emotion, but it isn't hitting save. By the time you wake up, the file's already corrupted. Historians still argue whether early dream interpreters understood this fragility. Ancient Mesopotamians wrote entire dream diaries on clay tablets, obsessively preserving visions as if they were sacred texts. Maybe they knew memory was slippery, so they raced to record it. One quirky tidbit: Roman statesman Cicero grumbled that dream interpretation was nonsense, partly because people forgot too much of what they saw. He basically threw shade at the whole practice by saying, "How can you trust a dream if you can't even remember it?" Fair point, Cicero. But the question isn't just why we forget. Sometimes it's why we remember. Ever had a nightmare so terrifying you couldn't shake it all day? That's your amygdala, the fear hub, stamping the memory with bright red ink. Emotional dreams are more likely to survive into waking life, especially the ones that trigger stress or awe. It's survival 101. Your brain wants you to remember the tiger attack, even if it was just a dream tiger. Meanwhile, the dream about shopping for milk in your pajamas. Deleted, no backup. Some researchers think forgetting is actually useful. If you remembered every dream, your waking mind might be flooded with surreal nonsense. Imagine trying to get to work while sifting through 30 overlapping dream plotlines. Did you really eat pancakes on Mars, or was that just REM static? Your brain keeps things tidy by tossing most of the nightly footage. Think of it as mental decluttering. Marie Kondo would approve. Of course, there are exceptions. Some people train themselves to recall dreams through journaling or repeating intentions before sleep. I will remember my dream. It sounds like witchcraft, but it works for many. Over time, they strengthen the neural bridge between dreaming and waking states. There are even lucid dreamers who claim they can recall whole narratives like a Netflix binge, episode by episode. And yet there's still debate. Are forgotten dreams really gone or just inaccessible? Some scientists think the memories are stored somewhere deep, only to surface later in flashes of déjà vu. Others insist they vanish entirely, like chalk washed off in the rain. Historians still argue whether forgotten dreams ever influenced behavior indirectly, shaping moods and choices even without conscious recall. Imagine carrying the ghost of a dream without realizing it. Creepy, but kind of poetic. Here's a quirky little fact. In certain cultures, not remembering dreams was considered a sign of spiritual weakness. The Aboriginal peoples of Australia, for example, weave dreaming into their cosmology. the dream time being a foundational layer of existence. In that framework, not remembering could mean you were disconnected from the sacred narrative. Contrast that with modern Westerners, who often treat forgetting dreams as a relief. Thank goodness I don't remember that nonsense. Two very different spins on the same brain glitch. And then there's the science of those odd moments when fragments cling. Maybe a single image, like a staircase, or a hand you don't recognize, haunts you all morning. Why that detail? Nobody knows for sure. It could be the brain's way of tagging unresolved questions. Or maybe your neurons just decided that one flamingo deserved a cameo in your waking hours. What about those times you wake up during a dream, heart pounding, the details crisp? That's timing. Wake up straight from REM, and you're more likely to carry the memory intact. But drift from REM into deep sleep before waking, and the memory slips into oblivion. It's like trying to scoop water with a sieve. You only catch what aligns with the right moment. So tonight, when you drift off again, think of your dreams as bubbles rising to the surface. Some pop before you can see them, some burst the instant you touch them, and a rare few float just long enough for you to catch a glimpse. The brain doesn't care. It keeps blowing bubbles anyway, night after night. The great irony, we forget most dreams, yet we build entire mythologies, theories, and sciences around the scraps we manage to hold onto. Humanity has taken fragments of the dream world and woven them into poetry, prophecy, and psychology. If that doesn't say something about our species, stubborn creativity, nothing does. And as your breathing slows again, imagine yourself clutching one dream bubble tightly, determined not to let it vanish at dawn. Maybe you'll succeed, maybe not. But the effort itself is part of the experiment, the brain's quiet trick of giving and taking away, night after night, leaving you forever curious. The night deepens, your muscles go limp, and behind closed eyelids your brain quietly shifts gears again. You've already drifted through slow-wave valleys and burst into vivid REM fireworks, but now you're bouncing back and forth, toggling between two very different dream arenas. This is the great showdown, REM dreams versus non-REM dreams. Spoiler, both are bizarre but in their own flavors. Think of REM dreams as the Hollywood blockbusters of the night. Bright colors, rapid cuts, surreal but cinematic. You're flying through neon cities, facing off with giant owls, or accidentally inventing a new language. Non-REM dreams, on the other hand, are the indie films, slower, grainier, more about mood than spectacle. You might dream you're folding laundry in an endless loop, or sitting in a room where nothing happens except the faint ticking of a clock. It's less Marvel movie, more French art house drama. Scientists once thought all dreams happened in REM, because that's when the brain looks so electrically active. But by the 1990s, sleep labs started noticing people reporting dreams from non-REM stages too. They were less vivid, more fragmented, but undeniably there. So now the consensus is, yes, you dream in both. Historians still argue whether early dream interpreters noticed these differences. Some scholars suggest ancient texts distinguish between true visions, perhaps from REM and ordinary shadows, maybe non-REM, though the language is too poetic to map perfectly. Here's a quirky tidbit. In non-REM dreams, people often report static-like sensations, just colors, patterns, or a vague feeling of presence. It's almost like your brain is idling, showing screensaver mode instead of a full narrative. But don't knock the subtlety. Those non-REM fragments may be where your brain quietly files away information, stitching memory threads without the drama of a chase scene. And then there's the emotional contrast. REM dreams often carry intense feelings, terror, joy, love, confusion, all dialed to 11. Non-REM dreams, they feel muted, almost flat, like your brain is running low on emotional ink. It's the difference between a roller coaster and a gentle train ride. You still move, but without the stomach flips. Scientists have tried mapping this out. Wake someone up during REM and they'll likely recall a wild story full of imagery and action. Wake them up during slow-wave sleep and you'll often get a shrug, maybe a sentence. "I was at work, I think." Yet even those scraps matter. Some psychologists argue non-REM dreams handle the practical housekeeping, organizing tasks, rehearsing routines, while REM dreams dive into emotions and creativity. Together, they're a two-part system, like having both Excel spreadsheets and watercolor paintings in the same brain gallery. Now here, where the debates heat up. Is there really a clean line between REM and non-REM dreams, or is it more of a spectrum? Some neuroscientists say the categories are fuzzy. REM may just amplify the same processes happening in quieter stages. Others insist the difference is fundamental, almost like two species of dream. Historians still argue whether Aristotle's musings about phantasms of the day were early hints of non-REM descriptions, or whether that's us retrofitting his words with modern science. Another fun fact, people deprived of REM sleep often become irritable, forgetful, even paranoid. But deprive them of non-REM deep sleep and their bodies start to fall apart. Immune systems weaken, growth hormones crash. It's as if REM dreams keep the mind's drama alive, while non-REM dreams maintain the body's scaffolding. Forget one and the system wobbles. Forget both and, well, good luck. And then there's the personal experience. You've probably woken from REM with a pounding heart, certain you just survived something monumental. You've also probably half woken from non-REM, remembering nothing but the heavy, delicious fog of rest. Both are real, both are necessary. It's the double act of the night, and your brain insists you attend both performances, whether you want to or not. Some cultures even gave them different spiritual weights. In ancient Egypt, elaborate REM-like dreams of gods and omens were written down on papyrus scrolls, while the duller non-REM snippets were largely ignored. The glamour won out. Yet in Tibetan Buddhist traditions, even quiet, fragmentary dreams were used in meditation practices, considered part of training the mind. One person's static is another's signal. So as you drift tonight, imagine your brain switching channels. One moment the blockbuster, the next the quiet, experimental short film. Both are stitched into the same dream festival, and both are part of the brain's secret experiments. If you're lucky, maybe you'll wake with a memory of both. A strange little fragment of folding laundry and then a dragon chase across the sky. If not, don't worry. Your brain still ran the show. You just didn't catch the credits. Your body is slack, your room is quiet, but inside the dream world, things are getting dicey. Not every nighttime experiment is fun flying sequences or mild laundry folding rehearsals. Sometimes your brain decides to roll out the horror film reel. The monsters, the falls, the endless running with legs like concrete. Welcome to nightmares, nature's tough love disguised as terror. Nightmares are some of the most ancient and universal dream experiences. Everyone gets them, kids, adults, even animals. You've probably had the classic chase dream, the teeth falling out panic, or the suffocating sense of being trapped. They leave your heart pounding, your sheets damp, and your mood soured for hours. And yet, paradoxically, they may be one of the brain's most useful experiments. Some scientists argue nightmares are dress rehearsals for survival. Your brain throws you into simulated danger so you can practice reacting. You wake up shaken, yes, but maybe a little sharper for the real thing. Historians still argue whether nightmares were once considered punishments from gods or messages from spirits. Ancient Babylonians believed demons called Udaku could slip into your sleep and sit on your chest, suffocating you. That image carried forward for centuries. In medieval Europe, the word nightmare literally referred to a demonic mare that pressed down on you at night. Quirky tidbit. Some 18th century folk remedies against nightmares included putting iron scissors under your pillow or wearing your socks inside out. Not exactly FDA approved, but hey, people were creative. Modern science takes a different tack. Nightmares spike in REM sleep when the brain is most active and emotions are running hot. The amygdala, your fear center, lights up like a bonfire while your prefrontal cortex, the voice of reason, snoozes in the corner. That imbalance means fear runs wild with no one to tell it. Relax, it's just a cat. Instead, your brain says, yes, the cat has 12 eyes and it's after you. Run. Interestingly, kids experience more nightmares than adults. Their brains are still developing emotional regulation, so the Dream Lab throws them extra practice drills. That explains the universal childhood memory of waking up sweaty, bolting to your parents' room, and swearing the monster under the bed was real. Adults get fewer nightmares overall, but when they do, they often tie to stress, trauma, or spicy food at the wrong hour. Yes, cheese before bed has been accused of fueling nightmares, though historians still argue whether that's science or just a good story the Victorians love to repeat. So what's the evolutionary payoff here? One theory says nightmares help desensitize you. By dreaming about threats, you simulate them in a safe environment. Soldiers and hunters in the past may have benefited from rehearsing danger in sleep. Another theory says nightmares are a glitch, a side effect of the brain's memory processing system, occasionally hitting the panic button too hard. Scholars still debate whether nightmares sharpen you or just torment you. Honestly, maybe both. But nightmares aren't all bad. They've inspired art, literature, even breakthroughs. Mary Shelley famously credited a nightmare with sparking the idea for Frankenstein. And Salvador Dali leaned into disturbing dream imagery for his surrealist masterpieces. Nightmares, in other words, aren't just survival drills. They're creative fuel if you're brave enough to use them. Here's a curious cultural twist. In Japan, there's a folk tale of the Baku, a dream-eating spirit. If you had a nightmare, you could call upon the Baku to devour it before dawn. The catch: if the Baku was still hungry after eating your bad dream, it might munch on your good ones too. A risky bargain. Imagine yelling into the night, "Hey spirit, please eat my dream," and waking up with a total blank slate. Nightmares can also cross into the waking world in strange ways. Ever jolted upright, convinced the danger was real? Your body floods with adrenaline as if you really were being chased. That's because the dream doesn't stay contained. It leaks into your physiology. Your heart pounds, sweat beads, your muscles twitch. You've essentially done a cardio workout without leaving bed. Convenient, but not exactly restful. So as you lie here, drifting deeper, remember, the brain's experiments aren't always gentle. Sometimes it sharpens you with fear, like a coach shouting drills in your sleep. Sometimes it just messes with you for reasons no scientist has nailed down. Either way, nightmares remind you that even in rest, your mind is testing its limits, pushing you through darkness so you can open your eyes to light. And hey, if tonight your dream takes a spooky turn, just remember, it's only your brain doing tough love training. No scissors under the pillow required. Your breathing steadies again, the sheets are cool, and somewhere in the haze of sleep you notice something's off. The dream has slipped a little. The hallway you're walking down looks oddly like your old high school, but the lockers are made of glass fish tanks. A teacher floats past on roller skates, and instead of shrugging and going along with it, as you usually do, you pause, you squint, and you realize, hold on, this is a dream. Congratulations. You've just tipped into the rare, strange phenomenon of lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming is exactly what it sounds like, dreaming, but with the awareness that you're inside a dream. For some people, that awareness is fleeting, a brief aha moment before the dream dissolves. For others, it's full-on shadow control, piloting the dream world like a sandbox video game. You might fly, summon a pizza, or hold a conversation with Abraham Lincoln while riding a giant goldfish. Once the brain admits you're in the simulation, the possibilities are endless. But here's the catch. Gaining awareness doesn't always give you power. Sometimes the dream world pushes back, like a stubborn video game NPC refusing to obey your commands. You try to fly and end up hopping awkwardly, or you demand riches and the dream hands you a soggy sandwich. Historians still argue whether ancient dream practices, from Tibetan dream yoga to Aristotle's musings, count as true lucid dreaming, but one thing's clear. Humans have long been fascinated by controlling the dream stage. Quirky tidbit: Aristotle may have been one of the first to describe it. In his On Dreams, he noted moments when a sleeper is aware of sleeping, realizing the images aren't real. That little flash of insight is basically the birth certificate of lucid dreaming in Western philosophy. And in the East, Tibetan Buddhists developed dream yoga practices, where monks train themselves to stay conscious in dreams as a path toward enlightenment. Forget flying for fun. They were aiming for cosmic awareness. So how does lucid dreaming actually work? Neuroscience suggests it's a halfway state. During normal REM, the prefrontal cortex, the rational part, goes offline. That's why you believe the nonsense. But in lucid dreams, a spark of prefrontal activity reactivates, like a night watchman returning to duty. Suddenly, you're aware that the dream is a construct. Brain scans of lucid dreamers show unusual patterns of gamma activity, almost like the brain is blending waking and dreaming at the same time. You're both actor and director. There's a whole subculture of people trying to hack their way into lucidity. Some use reality checks, pausing in the day to ask, "Am I dreaming?" The idea is that the habit carries over into sleep, and eventually you'll catch the inconsistency: the clock melting, the fish locker, the teacher on roller skates. Others use the mild technique mnemonic induction of lucid dreams, where you fall asleep repeating, "Next time I'm dreaming, I'll know it's a dream." It sounds cheesy, but it works for many. And then there's wild, wake-induced lucid dreaming, where you keep your mind awake as your body falls asleep. That one's not for the faint-hearted. Done right, you slip straight into a lucid dream. Done wrong, you end up in sleep paralysis, staring at the ceiling while your brain invents shadowy figures in the corner. Exciting, but terrifying, like sneaking into the lab when the experiments aren't ready. Historians still debate whether figures like Leonardo da Vinci or Nikola Tesla deliberately used lucid dreaming for their ideas. There's evidence they practiced strange sleep schedules, which might have boosted awareness during REM. Even Salvador Dali had a trick. He'd nap in a chair holding a spoon over a plate. The moment he slipped into dream territory, the spoon clattered, waking him just enough to snatch bizarre images from the threshold. Lucid dreaming. Maybe not exactly, but definitely dream hacking. There's also the therapeutic side. People who suffer from recurring nightmares sometimes train themselves to go lucid so they can confront or alter the dream. Imagine being chased by a monster for the 100th time, only this time you stop, turn around and say, "Actually, you're my stress about taxes." The monster shrinks or vanishes and the nightmare loop ends. That's not just fun, that's mental health in action. Of course, the experience isn't always glorious. Lucid dreams can collapse quickly like a sandcastle washed away. Or worse, they can feel hyperreal, leaving you groggy and disoriented. Some dreamers even report false awakenings, where they wake up, only to realize they're still dreaming. And sometimes again, and again. It's a hall of mirrors that can leave you doubting whether you ever made it back. Still, the fascination endures. The idea that you could wake inside your own mental lab, flick switches, and rewrite the experiments is irresistible. Some do it for fun, some for healing, some for insight. And tonight, if you pause long enough to notice the glass fish tanks or the impossible shadows, you might just step into the lucid arena yourself. So go ahead. If the dream world cracks open, take the wheel. Worst case scenario, you get a soggy sandwich instead of treasure. Best case, you learn that even in the strangest experiments of sleep, awareness can be the ultimate cheat code. You're still drifting, body heavy, but the dreamscape shifts again. The lockerfish tanks, the soggy sandwiches, even the roller skating teacher dissolve, and suddenly you're stepping into the minds of people long gone. Because while modern science straps electrodes to skulls and maps brainwaves, the ancients had their own explanations, and they were, frankly, a lot more dramatic. Dreams weren't just random hallucinations to them. They were sacred messages, divine broadcasts, and sometimes even prophecies that could change the fate of nations. Take ancient Egypt, for instance. They didn't just dream, they documented. Entire dream books were carved into papyrus scrolls, cataloging possible dream images and their meanings. Dream of drinking warm beer, bad omen. Dream of the Nile flooding. Could mean wealth or disaster depending on context. One quirky tidbit: in these Egyptian guides, dreaming of a large cat was good luck, but dreaming of a small cat was bad. Nobody's really sure why, but you can imagine the confusion of a villager waking up and trying to remember exactly how big the cat in last night's vision was. Historians still argue whether these dream manuals were used for genuine divination or just as bedside entertainment. But what's clear is that Egyptians saw dreams as bridges to the gods. Temples even had dream incubation chambers, special sleeping spaces where people would rest in hopes of receiving divine messages. Imagine checking into a hotel, but instead of room service, the package deal is Zeus or Thoth dropping by in your dream to tell you how to fix your crops. The Greeks, too, were obsessed. Aristotle, as we mentioned earlier, leaned toward the rational, dreams as echoes of daytime sensations. But his teacher Plato, he thought dreams revealed hidden desires. And then there was Artemidorus, a 2nd century Greek who basically wrote the dream dictionary of antiquity. His Wonera Critica was like the BuzzFeed listicle of the ancient world. Top 50 weird dreams and what they mean. Some of his interpretations were practical, others downright bizarre. Dream of your teeth falling out. Someone in your family will die. Dream of flying, freedom, or maybe a promotion. It's like horoscope meets Freud centuries before Freud. Meanwhile, the Mesopotamians were staging dream rituals thousands of years before that. Kings consulted dream interpreters before battles, treating visions as tactical advice. The Epic of Gilgamesh, one of humanity's oldest stories, is packed with dream sequences. In one, Gilgamesh dreams of a meteor falling from the sky, a symbol scholars debate to this day. Was it divine warning, a metaphor for destiny, or just a really stressful nap? Nobody agrees. And let's not forget the ancient Chinese, who wove dreams into philosophy. Taoist thinkers sometimes argued that waking life itself was a kind of dream. The famous philosopher Zhuangzi told the story of dreaming he was a butterfly, only to wake and wonder. Was he Zhuangzi who dreamed he was a butterfly, or a butterfly now dreaming he was Zhuangzi? That paradox still makes philosophy students groan centuries later. Other cultures took a shamanic approach. Indigenous peoples across the world, from the Amazon to North America, often viewed dreams as spirit journeys. The Iroquois believed dreams revealed desires of the soul, and failing to act on them could bring misfortune. Some communities held communal dream-sharing rituals, treating the content as collective guidance. Imagine starting your day not by scrolling your phone, but by gathering with your neighbors to analyze each other's dreams about glowing deer or endless rivers. But here, where things get even quirkier, in some places people believed you could actually influence dreams through ritual. Ancient Greeks practiced dream incubation at temples of Asclepius, the god of healing. You'd make offerings, purify yourself, then sleep in the temple, hoping the god would visit and prescribe a cure in your dream. If you dreamed of snakes, symbols of Asclepius, you were in luck. If you dreamed of, say, goats chewing your sandals, well, interpretation got a little trickier. Historians still debate whether these dream rituals were psychological placebo or genuine spiritual practice. Some scholars argue the incubation process itself, quieting the mind, preparing for sleep in a sacred place, might have triggered vivid, healing dreams naturally. Others believe it was all symbolic theater, reinforcing cultural values. Either way, it shows just how deeply ancient people trusted the dream state as a channel for wisdom. And honestly, you can't blame them. Without EEGs or neurology, dreams really did feel like messages from beyond. Why else would you see your dead relatives, talk to gods, or fly through landscapes impossible in waking life? To them, it was proof of another realm. To us, it's neural activity, but the mystery lingers, doesn't it? So as you lie here tonight, drifting deeper, picture yourself not just as a sleeper in your own bed, but as part of a long lineage. You're alongside Egyptians in incense-filled chambers, Greeks jotting down omens, Mesopotamian kings consulting priests, shamans drumming by firelight. Across time and space, humans have looked at their dreams and asked the same question you're asking now. What does it mean? Maybe the answer is divine. Maybe it's biological static. Or maybe, like Zhuangzi's butterfly, the line between waking and dreaming is blurrier than we care to admit. Either way, you're not alone in your curiosity. The ancients were right there with you, taking notes, whispering prayers, and waiting for the brain's next experiment to begin. The incense of those ancient temples fades, and the dreamscape shifts forward in time. You're no longer surrounded by papyrus scrolls or shamanic chants. You're reclining on a velvet couch in Vienna, nervously adjusting your collar while a bearded man with a thick accent leans in with a notebook. Welcome to the age of Freud and Jung, where dreams got hauled out of the realm of gods and shoved under the magnifying glass of psychology. Sigmund Freud, the man often blamed for making "Tell me about your mother" a punchline, saw dreams as the royal road to the unconscious. To him, your nightly hallucinations weren't divine messages. They were your repressed desires sneaking past the censors. Freud believed the dream you remembered was just the manifest content, the visible story. Beneath that, buried deep, was the latent content, the secret meaning, usually involving taboo wishes, anxieties, or unresolved conflicts. Dreaming about climbing stairs. Freud might suggest you were working out something, well, a bit saucier than exercise. Historians still argue whether Freud genuinely cracked open the mind or simply projected his own obsessions onto everyone else. But his 1899 book, The Interpretation of Dreams, was a cultural earthquake. Suddenly, dreams weren't just curiosities, they were psychological data. Entire generations began keeping dream journals, hoping to decode their inner desires. And of course, Freud's famous patients lay on those couches, spilling their dreams of trains, houses, and lost keys, only to hear they represented family drama or secret passions. Enter Carl Jung, Freud's one-time protege turned intellectual rebel. Jung respected Freud but thought he was too narrow, too focused on personal repression. For Jung, dreams tapped into something bigger, the collective unconscious. This was the idea that beneath your individual psyche lies a shared reservoir of symbols, myths, and archetypes common to all humanity. That's why you might dream of a wise old man, a shadowy stranger, or a nurturing mother figure. According to Jung, these weren't random characters. They were universal archetypes bubbling up from humanity's shared psyche. Quirky tidbit: Jung once had a patient who dreamed of a scarab beetle. While she was describing it in his office, an actual scarab-like beetle tapped against the window. Jung, ever the mystic at heart, called this a moment of synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence between dream and reality. Whether you see that as cosmic proof or lucky timing, it certainly impressed his patient. Freud saw dreams as wish fulfillment. Jung saw them as messages from the deeper self. Between them, the modern conversation about dreams split into two paths: personal psychology and universal symbolism. And while scientists with EEG machines later rolled their eyes at the mystical parts, the influence of Freud and Jung is still everywhere, from dream dictionaries at bookstores to Jungian therapists helping patients unpack their shadow. Historians still argue whether Jung's archetypes are real psychological structures or just poetic metaphors. Some neuroscientists dismiss them as untestable, while others quietly admit that certain dream symbols do seem to recur across cultures. Fire, water, falling, flying. These motifs appear whether you're in Vienna or the Amazon. Coincidence, or evidence of something deeper tying us together? And it wasn't just theory. Both Freud and Jung used dreams as practical tools. Freud's analyses often helped patients uncover repressed memories or hidden conflicts, giving them insight into their waking struggles. Jung, meanwhile, encouraged people to dialogue with dream figures, almost treating them as independent minds within the psyche. He even practiced active imagination, a technique where you continue the dream while awake, writing or drawing what unfolds. Essentially, dream fanfiction as therapy. Of course, not everyone was impressed. By the mid-20th century, behaviorists dismissed Freud's theories as unscientific nonsense, accusing him of making everything about sex. Yet his cultural impact stuck. Even today, people casually say things like, "That dream must mean something," a direct echo of Freud's insistence that dreams aren't random fluff. Meanwhile, Jung's ideas seeped into art, literature, and even video games. Archetypes of heroes, shadows, and guides shape the stories we tell, and often the dreams we dream. His notion of the collective unconscious inspired countless mystics, writers, and spiritual seekers. Even if you don't buy his theory, you can't deny its imaginative pull. And here's the funny irony. While Freud and Jung argued over theories, both would probably be shocked to learn that neuroscientists today sometimes agree with parts of each. Freud was onto something with the idea that dreams process repressed emotions. Jung was onto something with recurring symbolic patterns. Neither man had EEG machines, but both intuited truths that modern labs are still piecing together. So tonight, as you slip deeper, picture yourself lying on that velvet couch, confessing your dreams to a pipe-smoking Freud, or maybe sketching archetypes with Jung in his Swiss chalet. Whether you believe dreams are wish fulfillment, universal symbols, or just neurons firing, you're part of a conversation that's been going on for over a century. And in the brain's secret laboratory, maybe you'll get to test their theories for yourself. The velvet couch fades away, Freud's cigar smoke dissolves, and you find yourself standing inside a giant filing cabinet. Drawers stretch up endlessly, clattering open and shut, papers fluttering like restless birds. This is your brain's backstage office, and tonight's experiment isn't about gods or archetypes, it's about storage. Dreams, in many theories, are less about prophecy or symbols and more about housekeeping. You're not just resting, you're archiving, tagging, shredding, and reorganizing. The hippocampus, the brain's memory librarian, plays the starring role here. During the day, it's busy stuffing experiences into temporary folders, conversations, smells, embarrassing slip-ups you wish you could forget. At night, especially during REM sleep, it decides what to keep and what to toss. Some memories get transferred to long-term storage in the cortex, others get shredded. Dreams might just be the byproduct of this sorting. The brain's doodles in the margins while it files the important stuff. Historians still argue whether Aristotle hinted at this when he said dreams were residues of daily life, fragments replayed in distorted form. Fast forward to the 20th century, and scientists finally had tools to test it. In the 1950s, studies on students showed those who slept after studying remembered more than those who pulled all-nighters. The quirky tidbit: Rats running mazes in the day showed nearly identical brain activity while they slept, as if replaying the maze in dream form. It was like their neurons were whispering, "Left turn here, avoid the dead end, grab the cheese." So when you dream you're back in school, fumbling through an exam you didn't study for, it might not be random humiliation. It could be your brain replaying stress patterns, filing away the lessons of pressure and preparation. Or maybe it's just being cruel. The hippocampus is efficient but not always compassionate. Another layer, emotional processing. Dreams don't just replay raw memories, they remix them with feelings. Ever had a dream where a friend betrayed you and you woke up salty at them all day? That's your amygdala emotion central stitching feelings into the storage box. Some scientists argue this helps you rehearse social situations, deciding who to trust, how to handle conflict, how to survive heartbreak. Others think it's simply emotional detox, like crying without the tears. Either way, your brain is editing your life's footage with dramatic flair. There's also the problem-solving angle. Think of dreams as the brain's R&D department, running simulations without real-world consequences. The famous chemist Auguste Kekulé supposedly dreamed of a snake biting its own tail, which inspired his discovery of the ring structure of benzene. Was it magic, or just his brain replaying chemical patterns until one clicked into place? Historians still debate whether the story is polished myth or real event, but the point stands. Dreams may be where the brain sneaks solutions into your inbox. But not all sorting is successful. Ever notice how trauma replays itself in dreams, sometimes vividly, sometimes symbolically? PTSD often hijacks the filing system, forcing the same memory to loop again and again. It's as if the librarian can't find the right drawer, so it keeps shoving the paper back onto your desk. Nightmares, in that sense, are failed filing attempts, important but unresolved experiences demanding attention. Therapists sometimes use lucid dreaming to help patients rewrite these loops, finally closing the drawer. Quirky fact: some researchers believe dreaming evolved precisely for this purpose. Early humans who slept and dreamed well could consolidate hunting strategies, remember dangerous routes, or bond with their group through shared dream stories. Those who did, they might have forgotten where the lions lurked. Natural selection, courtesy of REM. And still, there's debate. Are dreams essential to memory, or just a flashy side effect? Some experiments show people still consolidate memories even without remembering dreams. Others argue the vivid narratives are the mind's way of strengthening the emotional weight of memories. Historians still argue whether our ancestors' elaborate dream rituals were really about prophecy, or just an early way of honoring memory itself. So as you lie here, drifting into your own neural archive, imagine the filing cabinet rattling away. Some drawers slam shut, locking in names, smells, and faces. Others scatter their contents, never to be retrieved. In between, the dream projector flashes wild imagery across the walls. You may never know exactly which details made it into storage. But when you wake tomorrow remembering the capital of France or the face of your childhood friend, you'll have your dreaming brain to thank. The funny thing, most of us complain about forgetting dreams, yet we rely on them constantly in ways we don't even notice. Your ability to tell stories, solve puzzles, and even trust people may be shaped by thousands of forgotten dream experiments. The brain doesn't brag about its filing, it just gets the job done. So next time you wake up from a dream about riding a unicycle through a library, don't dismiss it. It might just be your hippocampus saying, SHH, I'm working here. The clattering drawers of that endless brain filing cabinet fade, and now the dreamscape smells faintly of herbs and candle smoke. You're in a room that could be a temple, or maybe a dorm room lit by a neon lava lamp. Because whether it's ancient ritual or TikTok hack, humans have always tried one thing: planting dreams on purpose. Welcome to the strange and sprawling world of dream incubation. Dream incubation is the art, or maybe the hustle, of nudging your brain toward a specific kind of dream. The idea goes back thousands of years. Ancient Greeks practiced it in temples of Asclepius, the god of healing. People would fast, purify themselves, and then sleep in sacred chambers called abaton. The hope that Asclepius would appear in their dreams and deliver medical advice. Imagine showing up with a sore knee and waking up convinced the god told you to take more walks. Placebo. Miracle. Historians still argue. Quirky tidbit. In some Egyptian dream books, there were recipes for incubation that included rubbing particular oils on your body or sleeping on specific herbs. Fast forward to medieval Europe, and dream seekers were tucking bits of cheese or chamomile under their pillows. Folk wisdom claimed it shaped the visions. If nothing else, it definitely shaped the smell of the bedsheets. Dream incubation didn't vanish with incense and priests. Modern psychologists have run experiments where subjects are told to think about a problem before sleep. Surprisingly often, the problem pops up in their dreams, sometimes even with workable solutions. College students have used this trick for exam prep, rehearsing equations in their sleep. Some artists and musicians swear by it too, seeding ideas before bed and waking up with breakthroughs. And yes, TikTok found it. Hashtags like dream incubation trend with tutorials. Write your intention on paper, stare at an image before bed, repeat a phrase like a mantra. It's a low-tech ritual, basically the DIY version of Asclepius's temple. Historians still argue whether it's scientifically valid or just a self-fulfilling prophecy. After all, if you fall asleep obsessing about a topic, odds are it'll sneak into your dreams. Here, where things get even stranger. In 2021, researchers launched targeted dream incubation experiments, actually trying to guide dreams using prompts during early sleep. Participants listened to specific words or music right as they drifted off. Lo and behold, many reported dreams that included those cues. One quirky case: participants primed with the theme of trees ended up dreaming about forests, plants, even talking vegetables. The brain, apparently, is suggestible when it's half asleep. But there are ethical questions, too. Imagine advertisers sneaking into your dreams with subtle cues, Coca-Cola whispering, refreshing, while you snooze. Sounds dystopian, but companies have already toyed with the idea. Sleep scientists are pushing back, warning that our dream space should stay sacred. It's bad enough when your phone listens to you while awake. Imagine it selling ads while you're unconscious. Different cultures handled incubation with reverence. The Aboriginal peoples of Australia weave dreamtime stories into their entire worldview, though that's more about cosmic dreaming than incubation per se. In Islamic traditions, believers sometimes pray for guidance in dreams, hopping for visions that point them toward righteous choices. Across the globe, dream shaping has always been seen as a way to connect with wisdom beyond the ordinary mind. And still, the science is catching up. Some neuroscientists see incubation as a form of directed attention, using the same focus skills you use in waking life. Others think it taps into memory consolidation. By rehearsing your intention, you boost the odds it sticks to the dream script. Historians still debate whether incubation was originally more about religious faith or psychological technique. Either way, you can try it tonight. Write down a question you're struggling with. Read it a few times before bed. Maybe whisper it to yourself. Then, when the dream projector starts rolling, see if the film matches your request. You might wake with a useful hint, or you might just dream of trees yelling exam questions at you. No guarantees. But isn't that part of the charm? Whether in temples, villages, labs, or TikTok feeds, humans keep trying to bend the dream machine to their will. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. but the persistence itself says something. We want to believe our brains aren't just tossing random nonsense at us. We want to believe we can aim the experiment. So as you drift deeper, imagine yourself slipping into an ancient abaton, or maybe just your own bed with a sticky note under the pillow. You're planting a seed in the soil of sleep, waiting to see what kind of dream grows overnight. It could be healing, it could be art, or it could just be a reminder that your brain is both your oldest lab and your most mischievous trickster. The abaton fades, the herbs and incense curl away, and you're left in a dim, flickering dream where time itself feels slippery. Because every so often, a dream doesn't just remix your day, it seems to predict the future. You wake, shrug it off, and then days later reality unfolds almost exactly as you saw it. Goosebumps. Welcome to the twilight zone of prophetic dreams. People have been telling these stories forever. One of the most famous comes from Abraham Lincoln. According to accounts from his friends, just a few days before his assassination, he dreamed of walking through the White House, hearing sobs and finding a corpse guarded in the East Room. "Who is dead in the White House?" he asked in the dream. "The president," a soldier replied. Lincoln reportedly told his wife about it. Then, of course, the tragedy struck. Historians still argue whether the dream was recorded faithfully before the event or polished up afterward. Either way, it shows how deep the belief in prophetic dreams runs. Quirky tidbit: Mark Twain once wrote about dreaming of his brother's death in vivid detail, down to the outfit his brother would be buried in. A week later, the dream played out almost exactly. Twain, being Twain, described the whole thing with both awe and sarcasm, never quite sure whether to call it fate or coincidence. The Greeks leaned hard into this idea. Oracles often combined dream visions with their prophecies, claiming dreams could reveal the will of the gods. Entire battles were planned or avoided based on soldiers' visions. Artemidorus, the ancient dream interpreter we mentioned earlier, even separated ordinary dreams from Waniroi, which he said foretold future events. Imagine your general's strategy meeting being interrupted with, "Well, last night I dreamed of a goat, so we'll attack at dawn." But what does modern science say? Honestly, it depends who you ask. Some neuroscientists dismiss prophetic dreams as coincidence. You dream so many random scenarios that eventually one will line up with reality by chance. It's like buying thousands of lottery tickets. Eventually, you'll hit a winner. Others argue dreams may actually anticipate events by priming your brain. For example, if you subconsciously notice your boss acting irritable, your dream might cast them firing you. Days later, if it happens, you swear your dream predicted it. In truth, your brain just put the puzzle together faster than you realized. There's also the pattern recognition theory. Your brain is wired to spot connections, even where none exist. You may forget dozens of dreams that didn't come true, but remember vividly the one that did. It's selective memory, a glitch that feels like prophecy. Historians still argue whether medieval chronicles of prophetic dreams were genuine records or retroactive justifications. If the crops failed, leaders could always say, "Oh yes, I dreamed it would happen." Handy excuse. And yet the stories persist. Soldiers in World War I reported vivid dreams of battles before they happened. After the Titanic sank, newspapers collected accounts of people who had dreamed of shipwrecks in the days before the disaster. Psychologists debate whether this is evidence of shared anxiety. People already knew the ship was big, maybe unsafe, and their fears took dream form, or whether it's just eerie coincidence. In fringe corners, you'll find the belief that dreams sometimes tap into alternate timelines or collective unconscious signals, like a radio picking up faint broadcasts from the future. Jung, of course, leaned toward this idea, treating certain symbolic dreams as glimpses of wider patterns in the universe. Hard science doesn't back that up, but it hasn't stopped people from wondering. Even today, people report precognitive dreams online, swapping stories of uncanny accuracy. Entire forums are devoted to dream journaling in hopes of spotting trends that could predict events. Some even try collaborative experiments, hundreds of dreamers focusing on one question, then sharing results to see if patterns emerge. The data is fuzzy at best, but the curiosity is undeniable. Here's a curious angle: déjà vu. Some scientists think the eerie sensation of having lived a moment before might come from half-remembered dreams. Maybe you dreamed a similar scene, walking down that exact hallway, hearing those exact words, and when it happens in waking life, it feels like prediction. Your brain whispers, "I've been here." And in a way, it has. So where does that leave you tonight, drifting in the lab of sleep? Maybe your brain is just shuffling memories, building weird simulations, and every once in a while, luck makes one of them match reality. Or maybe, just maybe, your dream experiments occasionally tune into something bigger, threads of time you don't consciously see. Either way, you'll probably wake with fragments, a strange image, a cryptic line, maybe a feeling you can't shake. Write it down. You never know whether it'll vanish into nonsense or echo back at you days later, leaving you wondering if your brain just played fortune teller. The candlelight of those prophetic visions flickers out, and now the dream shifts into something heavier, stranger. Your eyes flutter beneath your lids, but suddenly you feel awake. You see your room faintly lit. You hear the hum of the fan, maybe even footsteps in the hall. You try to move, to roll over, to shake off the grogginess, and nothing happens. Your body has locked you in. Welcome to the unnerving twilight of sleep paralysis. It happens when your mind wakes up, but your muscles haven't yet received the memo. During REM sleep, your body is paralyzed by design, so you don't act out your dreams and karate kick your nightstand. Usually, this paralysis wears off the moment you regain full consciousness. But every so often, there's a glitch. Your eyes open, your awareness returns, and you find yourself trapped in a body that won't budge. Cue the panic. Historians still argue whether ancient demon on the chest folklore stemmed from this experience. The famous painting The Nightmare by Henry Fuseli, with its goblin crouched on a sleeping woman, perfectly captures the sensation. Cultures around the world developed their own myths. In Scandinavia, the mare was a malicious spirit pressing on your chest. In Japan, Kanashibari was a ghostly force pinning you down. In Newfoundland, people spoke of the old hag sitting on sleepers. Quirky tidbit: some folks tried to prevent it by putting knives under the bed or scattering beans on the floor. Hoping the spirits would get distracted counting them. From a scientific angle, sleep paralysis often comes with hallucinations. You're caught between dreaming and waking, so the brain projects dream images into your real environment. You might see shadowy figures at the foot of the bed, feel a weight on your chest, or hear whispers that make your skin crawl. The kicker: because your fear center is in overdrive, these visions almost always tilt creepy. Nobody reports cheerful clowns handing out ice cream cones during sleep paralysis. It's always the dark stuff. And yet, the experience is weirdly consistent across cultures. People separated by oceans and centuries still describe the same details. The heavy chest, the sense of presence, the looming intruder. Historians still debate whether this points to a shared neurological quirk, or whether people throughout history really believed they were encountering something beyond the brain. Modern researchers explain it with neurochemistry. Your body is still under REM atonia, muscle paralysis, while your mind has flickered into awareness. Hallucinations come from dream imagery leaking into waking perception. Still, that doesn't make the experience less terrifying. Imagine being pinned in your own bed by invisible ropes while your brain conjures up monsters. Sweet dreams, right? But not all encounters are terrifying. Some lucid dreamers actually use sleep paralysis as a launch pad. Instead of panicking, they focus on slipping fully into a dream, essentially hacking the glitch. With practice, the paralysis becomes a doorway to controlled dreaming. Of course, that requires training your brain not to scream when you see the shadow figure in the corner. Easier said than done. Quirky fact: the prevalence of sleep paralysis is surprisingly high. Around 20–30% of people experience it at least once. For most, it's rare and random. For others, it comes in clusters, especially during stress, irregular sleep, or jet lag. Students pulling all-nighters and nurses working night shifts report it often. Your brain, apparently, doesn't appreciate being jerked around. And then there are the fringe theories. Some UFO believers point to sleep paralysis as the root of alien abduction stories. Bright lights, paralyzed bodies, shadowy figures. The overlap is uncanny. Skeptics argue it's just the brain misfiring. Believers counter, or maybe the aliens really are there, and science is just the cover story. Historians still argue whether the folklore of demons and hags was a cultural explanation for the same phenomenon that fuels modern abduction tales. So tonight, as you lie there safe in your bed, remember, if you ever wake up unable to move, heart racing, the shadow at the corner of the room inching closer, it's just your brain playing another of its secret experiments. Terrifying, yes, but temporary. You'll break free, the paralysis will fade, and you'll remember the truth. It was all a dream caught halfway between worlds. Still, maybe don't sleep on your back, just in case. Your heartbeat slows again, the imagined shadows dissolve, and this time you find yourself surrounded not by spirits or aliens, but by animals curled up in their own cozy corners. A dog twitches, paws jerking as though chasing something. A cat lets out a tiny chirp, tail flicking. Even a rat, whiskers quivering, seems to be rehearsing some unseen adventure. Because it turns out, you're not the only creature with a secret dream lab. Animals dream too, and their midnight experiments might be closer to yours than you think. The evidence goes way back. In the 1950s, researchers recorded brain activity in cats and discovered that during REM sleep, their neural patterns looked almost identical to humans. When their muscle paralysis was briefly disabled, the cats acted out their dreams, stalking, pouncing, batting at invisible prey. Quirky tidbit: one cat in the lab even crouched and swiped at the air as if it were hunting. Imagine being the scientist, clipboard in hand, watching a cat karate chop nothingness at 3 a.m. Historians still argue whether Aristotle hinted at animal dreaming. In his writings, he suggested that dogs and horses might partake in phantasms during sleep. He didn't have EEG machines, but anyone who has watched a sleeping puppy kick its paws can see why he suspected it. Fast forward to today, and science has confirmed it. From rats to reptiles, dreamlike states are widespread in the animal kingdom. Rats in particular gave us some of the clearest proof. In the 2000s, researchers trained rats to run mazes while monitoring their hippocampal neurons. Each path through the maze created a distinct neural pattern. Later, during REM sleep, the exact same patterns replayed, sometimes even faster, as if the rats were practicing or fast-forwarding their run. In a way, the rats were dreaming of cheese victory laps. Dogs almost certainly dream of chasing. One Harvard researcher famously claimed that small dogs like beagles often dream of things close to their instincts: hunting, sniffing, protecting. Larger dogs, meanwhile, may dream less often but for longer stretches. And cats, they're probably chasing prey, even if that prey is an imaginary red laser dot. And it's not just mammals. Birds also show REM sleep, and studies on zebra finches revealed that their brain activity during sleep mimics the patterns of their songs. In other words, they practice tunes in their dreams. Picture it: a tiny bird perched in its nest, belting out a dream karaoke session. But here, where the debates fly in. Do animals experience dreams the way we do, with vivid imagery and emotions, or are their brains just replaying neural sequences like a background algorithm? Some scientists think animal dreams are purely functional, memory consolidation with no awareness. Others argue the twitching paws, the whimpers, the singing neurons suggest actual subjective experiences. Historians still argue whether human dreams are special, or just fancier versions of what every creature with REM is doing. There's even evidence of reptiles showing dreamlike sleep. A 2016 study found that bearded dragons cycle through REM-like stages, hinting that the capacity for dreams may stretch back hundreds of millions of years, which means dinosaurs might have dreamed too. Yes, it's entirely possible that a T-Rex once twitched in its sleep, dreaming of chasing prey, or maybe of finally being able to scratch its tiny arms on its back. Quirky cultural note: some indigenous traditions consider animal dreams deeply meaningful. Among certain Native American tribes, dreaming of an animal could signal guidance or kinship with that species. And in modern pet owner folklore, plenty of people swear their dogs bark in their sleep because they're chasing squirrels in dreamland. Science hasn't fully proven squirrels are involved, but the theory has strong fan support. And then there's the emotional side. Pet owners know the haunting moment when a dog whimpers or growls in its sleep. Are they dreaming of past trauma, imagined threats, or just processing instinctive fears? Nobody knows for sure. But the fact that animals show the same physiological signs, REM cycles, twitching, vocalizations, makes it hard to deny that they too wander strange nighttime landscapes. So what does that say about you? Maybe dreams aren't just a human quirk. Maybe they're a fundamental feature of brains with memory and imagination. If rats replay mazes, finches rehearse songs, and dogs run phantom sprints, then dreaming might be nature's universal rehearsal hall. Survival practice, creativity, emotional processing. It's not just your secret experiment. It's the whole animal kingdom's late-night hobby. As you drift deeper into your own sleep tonight, picture a world full of dreamers. Dogs chasing phantom rabbits, whales singing silent songs in the depths, even lizards running ancient, reptilian dream loops. You're not alone in the lab. Billions of creatures are right there with you, twitching and chirping their way through the vast, surreal theater of the night. The twitching paws of those dream-chasing dogs fade, and suddenly you're in a laboratory where the hum of machines replaces the quiet of night. Screens flicker with colorful brain scans, wires dangle like vines, and researchers squint at monitors as if they're watching the world's strangest movie. Because here's the unsettling truth: humans aren't content just to dream. We're now trying to read them, turning your private midnight experiments into data streams. It started with EEG machines in the early 20th century. Scientists strapped electrodes to sleeping volunteers, discovering those dramatic REM spikes that hinted at dream activity. But they couldn't see what you were dreaming, only that your brain was busy. Fast forward a few decades, and MRI machines joined the game. Suddenly, researchers could watch which areas lit up, visual cortex firing, probably images, amygdala glowing, likely nightmares. Still, this was like listening to an orchestra and guessing the song without hearing the notes. Then things got weirder. In the 2010s, Japanese scientists used fMRI and machine learning to decode dream imagery. They showed volunteers thousands of pictures while awake, mapping brain patterns linked to each image. Then, while the volunteers slept, they compared the dream brain activity to the awake database. The result: the algorithms could predict dream content with about 60% accuracy. If your brain looked like it was thinking of a house, odds were you were dreaming of a house. Quirky tidbit: they even picked up categories like person, car, or text. For the first time, science was peeking through the curtains of sleep. Historians still argue whether this counts as true dream reading or just educated guesswork. After all, your dream of a house might not look like the stock photo the computer used. Still, the fact that machines could even approximate dream content was groundbreaking and just a little creepy. Other labs tried a more interactive approach. In 2021, researchers pulled off something that sounds like science fiction: two-way communication with lucid dreamers. Participants, trained to become aware inside their dreams, were asked simple math questions or yes/no prompts while asleep. They answered with eye movements. Left, right, left meant yes. Incredibly, it worked. Dreamers solved problems in real time while still inside their dream bubbles. Imagine you're mid-dragon chase, and suddenly a scientist asks you to do subtraction. Talk about multitasking. And of course, technology doesn't stop at science. Startups are already tinkering with dream headbands that claim to influence or record your dreams. Most of them are glorified sleep trackers, but some promise targeted dream incubation, nudging you toward specific imagery with sounds or scents. Skeptics roll their eyes, but the consumer market is eager. After all, who wouldn't want to program their dreams like a Netflix playlist? Yet the ethical debates are just heating up. If we can decode dreams, what happens to privacy? Your nightly visions might be full of personal memories, fears, or fantasies you'd never share while awake. Should employers or governments ever have access to that? Scientists insist it's all still crude and limited, but the slippery slope is there. Historians still argue whether Orwell's 1984 was too paranoid, but dream surveillance would make even Big Brother shiver. On the flip side, dream reading tech could have real benefits. Therapists could better understand patients with recurring nightmares. Doctors could spot early signs of neurological disease. Artists could even project their dreamscapes onto screens, turning sleep into cinema. Salvador Dali would have loved that, though good luck decoding his nightmares without a surrealist dictionary. For now, the reality is still messy. Brain scans require bulky machines. Algorithms make only rough guesses, and no device can fully watch your dreams yet. But the direction is clear. The more we probe the brain, the more porous the boundary between private dream and public data becomes. So as you lie here drifting, imagine your brain hooked to a glowing machine. Every flicker of a neuron rendered as images on a screen. Scientists leaning forward whispering, "She's dreaming of water." "No, wait, flying," maybe both. Your innermost experiments, once secret, slowly becoming decipherable. Comforting, maybe. Creepy, definitely. And yet, there's something strangely poetic about it. For millennia, humans guessed at dreams through myths, gods, and psychology. Now we're building tools to literally map them, pixel by pixel. Maybe we'll never capture the full magic, the colors, the feelings, the nonsense transitions. But every step brings us closer to understanding the lab that runs every night inside your head. For better or worse, the brain's secret experiments are no longer entirely secret. Someone, somewhere, is already working on translating them into waking language. Whether that's awe-inspiring or terrifying depends on how you feel about people watching the movies only you were meant to see. The lab full of humming machines dissolves, and suddenly you're back in your own bed. But something feels off. The dream hasn't quite stayed where it belongs. Instead of being confined to your head, it seeps outward, dripping into reality like spilled ink. Welcome to the strange, unsettling world of parasomnias, where the brain's experiments break containment. Sleepwalking is the classic example. Your body rises while your conscious mind is still off in dreamland. You shuffle around, sometimes muttering, sometimes performing surprisingly complex tasks. Cases have been documented of people cooking meals, driving cars, even composing music while technically asleep. Quirky tidbit: In 2005, a woman in the UK was found sending emails in her sleep, including one line that read, "Come tomorrow and sort this hellhole out." Historians still argue whether her boss appreciated the honesty. Night terrors are even more dramatic. Unlike nightmares, which happen in REM, night terrors strike in deep non-REM sleep. The sleeper bolts upright, screaming, sweating, eyes wide open, yet completely unreachable. Minutes later, they collapse back into slumber, usually with no memory of the event. Parents of children who suffer night terrors know the haunting sound of those screams, a reminder that the dream lab can turn volatile without warning. And then there's REM sleep behavior disorder, RBD, where the normal paralysis of REM fails. Instead of lying still, dreamers act out their visions, thrashing, punching, even leaping from bed. It's not just inconvenient, it can be dangerous. Partners have been kicked or injured, and patients themselves often wake bruised. The condition is also a potential early warning for neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's. The brain, it seems, sometimes rehearses its breakdown in the theater of sleep. Historians still argue whether folklore around possessed sleepers or midnight wanderers were early accounts of parasomnias. Medieval chronicles describe people roaming villages in trances, which today sounds suspiciously like sleepwalking. But without modern science, such events were chalked up to witchcraft or spirits. Imagine waking to find your neighbor baking bread at 2 a.m., eyes glazed over. You'd probably assume sorcery, too. Other oddities fall into the same family. Sleep talking, for instance, ranges from murmurs to full-blown monologues. Entire conversations can happen, though the content is usually dream gibberish. One man famously recited poetry in his sleep, convincing his family he was haunted by a Victorian ghost. Another case involved someone blurting out personal secrets mid-slumber, proving that the brain doesn't always respect confidentiality agreements. And then there are sexsomnias. Yes, sexual behaviors during sleep. Rare, but very real, they can range from inappropriate touching to full intercourse, all while the person remains technically unconscious. Courts have even had to wrestle with this bizarre defense in legal cases. Science explains it as another glitch in sleep stages, but culturally it's been one of the most uncomfortable parasomnias to discuss. Quirky detail. In rare cases, people have committed crimes while sleepwalking. In the 19th century, courts debated whether murder committed in a sleepwalking state was culpable. Some were acquitted on grounds of automatism. The body acted without conscious control. Historians still argue whether these defenses were genuine or just convenient excuses. Either way, it shows how seriously we take the idea that dreams can spill into reality. So why does the brain betray you this way? Scientists suspect it's tied to instability in sleep architecture. Stress, irregular schedules, or neurological conditions can disrupt the normal transitions, leaving you half in and half out of dream states. It's like leaving the lab door ajar. The experiments wander out, and suddenly your kitchen is full of dream-cooked spaghetti at 3 a.m. Despite the risks, parasomnias highlight just how thin the wall is between dreaming and waking. You usually think of dreams as safe, sealed in the mind's theater. But sometimes the curtain slips and the performance spills onto the real-world stage. A little frightening, a little fascinating, and a reminder that your nightly experiments aren't as private as you'd hope. So tonight, as you lie in bed, maybe check that your doors are locked, the oven is off, and your phone's email app is closed. Just in case your dream self decides to get productive or a little too honest. The wandering sleepwalkers shuffle off stage, and now the dreamscape smells faintly of something else. Cheese, maybe, or a whiff of wine, or the bitter curl of tobacco. Because the brain's secret experiments aren't always left to their own devices. Sometimes you meddle. From midnight snacks to chemical cocktails, Humans have spent centuries poking at their dreams with substances, hopping to summon visions, enhance creativity, or just avoid another boring night of static. Let's start with the humble dairy culprit. For generations, people swore that eating cheese before bed gave them nightmares. The Victorians were especially dramatic about it. Charles Dickens even wrote about blamming ghostly visions on a late-night bit of underdone potato or a crumb of cheese. Quirky tidbit. In 2005, the British Cheese Board actually ran a study feeding volunteers different cheeses before bed. The results: Cheddar produced celebrity-filled dreams, Stilton triggered bizarre and vivid storylines, and Red Leicester evoked nostalgia. Not exactly science at its finest, but proof that food can flavor the dream lab. Historians still argue whether ancient Greeks experimented with diet-based dream triggers. Some records mention priests recommending specific foods before incubation rituals, possibly to prime the body for vivid visions. Meanwhile, in the Middle Ages, herbalists prescribed mugwort and valerian as dream herbs, claiming they opened the door to prophetic dreams. Even today, some people swear by mugwort tea for lucid dreaming. Then there are the heavy hitters, drugs. Indigenous cultures across the world used psychoactive plants like peyote, ayahuasca, and iboga not just for waking visions, but also to shape dream states. Shamans describe traveling into spirit realms, receiving guidance, or confronting fears through chemically enhanced dreams. Modern neuroscience explains these substances as turbocharging serotonin and dopamine systems, essentially overriding the brain's normal filters. Still, the line between sacred vision and REM disturbance is blurry. Alcohol, on the other hand, is more of a dream thief. While a nightcap might knock you out faster, it suppresses REM sleep early in the night, reducing dream time. Later, as the alcohol wears off, REM rebounds aggressively, leading to restless sleep and chaotic, intense dreams. That's why hangover mornings often come with scrambled fragments of wild, unpleasant dream reels. Your brain is basically trying to make up for lost time in its lab. And then there's nicotine. People using nicotine patches often report unusually vivid dreams, sometimes downright bizarre. Scientists suspect the steady dose of nicotine keeps the brain's acetylcholine receptors buzzing, boosting REM intensity. Imagine trying to run delicate experiments while the lab's power supply is on overdrive. The result? Strange, colorful hallucinations that can feel hyperreal. Caffeine plays tricks too, though in the opposite way. Too much coffee late in the day can delay sleep, fragment REM, and leave you with shorter, choppier dreams. Historians still argue whether ancient cultures knew this effect when they brewed early teas and coffees. But one thing's sure, your double espresso at 8 p.m. is unlikely to deliver peaceful dreamscapes. On the fringes, there are modern dream hackers. Supplements like galantamine, sometimes used for Alzheimer's treatment, are popular in lucid dreaming communities. They boost acetylcholine, making REM vivid and easier to notice. Combine that with techniques like reality checks, and suddenly people are summoning lucid playgrounds at will. It's a 21st century update to those ancient herbal teas, complete with Reddit forums swapping dosage tips. But the line between dream enhancement and nightmare fuel is thin. Some medications, antidepressants, blood pressure pills, even malaria prophylactics, are notorious for triggering bizarre or disturbing dreams. Soldiers deployed overseas sometimes report vivid, violent dream loops while on certain prescriptions. Quirky, yes, but also unsettling when your brain won't let you rest. So why does chemistry play such a big role? Dreams are born in neurotransmitters, serotonin, dopamine, acetylcholine. Tilt the balance and the experiments change. Sometimes you get technicolor flights of fancy. Sometimes you get shadowy loops that feel endless. The brain is both scientist and subject, endlessly sensitive to what you feed it. And still, there's no universal formula. Some people swear by warm milk, others by herbal concoctions, others by avoiding spicy food after dinner. Historians still argue whether ancient dream practices were genuine pharmacology or just ritual theater. What's clear is that humans have always wanted to tweak the controls of their nightly experiments, nudging the dial between nightmare and inspiration. So as you close your eyes tonight, think of the little alchemy you've performed. Maybe it's just a cup of chamomile, maybe it's a leftover slice of pizza, maybe it's that nicotine patch you keep forgetting to take off. Whatever you fed the lab, the brain will make use of it. And when the dreams come, whether cozy, chaotic, or cinematic, you'll know the experiment was flavored by your own midnight menu. The faint aftertaste of cheese and chamomile fades, and suddenly you're standing in a gallery where the walls are hung with strange, glowing canvases. Some are half-finished sketches, others are wild, impossible masterpieces. Because here's the thing, the Dream Lab isn't just filing memories or torturing you with nightmares. It's also the birthplace of ideas. For centuries, humans have credited dreams with sparks of creativity that changed the world. Take Paul McCartney, for instance. One morning he woke with a melody fully formed in his head. He rushed to a piano, played it out, and worried it was so perfect he must have stolen it from somewhere. That melody became Yesterday, one of the most famous songs ever written. Quirky tidbit: McCartney originally called it Scrambled Eggs while drafting because breakfast was on his mind. Proof that even genius can sound ridiculous before it's polished. And then there, Mary Shelley. She was just 18, spending a stormy night by Lake Geneva with Lord Byron and Percy Shelley, when she dreamed of a scientist bent over his creation. She woke shaken, and from that dream was born Frankenstein. Historians still argue whether she embellished the dream origin story later, but either way, it became one of the most iconic origin myths in literature. Science, too, owes debts to dreams. Auguste Kekulé's vision of a snake biting its own tail supposedly unlocked the circular structure of benzene. Dmitri Mendeleev, father of the periodic table, once claimed he dreamed of the elements arranging themselves into rows and columns. When he woke, he sketched the framework that would revolutionize chemistry. It sounds almost too good to be true, but historians still debate how much of it happened in literal dreams versus creative daydreams. Even Salvador Dali, king of the surrealists, treated dreams like his personal studio. He napped in a chair holding a key, which clattered onto a plate the moment he dozed. That micro-dream flash, caught before slipping into deeper sleep, filled his canvases with melting clocks and spindly elephants. Dream hacking, surrealist style. So why do dreams spark creativity? Neuroscience suggests that while awake, your brain's prefrontal cortex keeps ideas tidy, logical, and constrained. But in REM sleep, that filter loosens. Associations run wild. Your brain links things it normally wouldn't. An owl becomes a professor, a staircase turns into a waterfall, scrambled eggs become a ballad. The nonsense feels nonsensical in waking life, but sometimes it hides a gem of genuine insight. There's also the emotional angle. Dreams soak ideas in raw feeling, making them memorable. That's why a dream image can linger, even if it does make sense. Your brain is basically saying, here's a strange symbol, sit with it. Artists, poets, and inventors have always leaned into that strangeness, trusting the lab to deliver material that conscious logic would never allow. But the debate lingers. Are creative dreams truly unique insights, or just random mashups we cherry-pick afterward? Some scientists argue it's just noise, millions of nonsense combinations, with a few useful ones surviving. Others insist dreaming genuinely fosters problem-solving, offering cognitive rehearsal outside waking limits. Historians still argue whether Kekulé's snake dream was pure myth-making, But even skeptics admit that dreams seem unusually good at jolting ideas loose. And it's not only famous names. Everyday dreamers report waking with solutions to puzzles, lyrics, paintings, or inventions. Some use dream journals to mine nightly nonsense for creative gold. Others practice lucid dreaming specifically to brainstorm, flying through dream worlds, interviewing imaginary characters, or building impossible architectures. It's chaotic R&D, but for the right mind, it works. Of course, not every dream gift is helpful. Some people wake convinced they've written a masterpiece, only to find incoherent scribbles like "purple toaster democracy." Still, even failed attempts show the brain stretching, experimenting, trying new combinations. Creativity is, after all, a numbers game. Quirky cultural note. In some indigenous traditions, dreams aren't just personal creativity but collective guidance. Stories, songs, and rituals are said to be received through dreams, then shared with the community. Inspiration, in that view, isn't just personal genius. It's a channel connecting humans to something larger. So as you breathe deeply tonight, drifting toward your own canvas, remember that every dream is raw material. Some will be nightmares, some nonsense, some lost before sunrise. But every so often, your brain hands you a spark, a melody, an image, an answer you didn't know you needed. Whether you scribble it down at 3 a.m. or let it slip away, that's your choice. And who knows? Maybe the world's next breakthrough invention or haunting novel is already waiting for you behind your eyelids. All you have to do is close them and let the brain's secret experiments get to work. The dream gallery of glowing canvases fades, and you're left in a quiet room lined with chalkboards. Equations sprawl half-erased, diagrams overlap, and scholars are still packing, still arguing. Because for all the science, art, and folklore you've wandered through, there's one debate that refuses to end. Do dreams even matter? Or are they just colorful static, a nightly brain fart dressed up as meaning? Neuroscientists, monks, and mystics have been throwing metaphorical punches over this for centuries. On one side, you have the skeptics. Dreams, they argue, are nothing more than random firings of neurons, the brain's background noise while it resets itself. The activation synthesis theory, born in the 1970s, insists dreams are the cortex trying to make sense of chaotic REM signals. That's why they're so weird, because they're meaningless patterns forced into a story. Quirky tidbit. One of the theory's creators, Alan Hobson, later admitted that maybe dreams weren't entirely meaningless, just mostly. Which is kind of like saying your favorite TV show is 90% static but might still have 1 or 2 good episodes. On the other side stand the believers. Dreams, they argue, must matter. Why else would evolution conserve them across species? Why else would the brain spend so much energy staging them night after night? Some psychologists claim dreams are emotional rehearsal, a safe place to process fear and loss. Others see them as creative incubators, where impossible connections spark genuine insight. Historians still argue whether Aristotle was right to call dreams residues of the day, or whether he missed the deeper layer that shamans and monks always insisted was there. Cultural traditions often fall squarely in the dreams matter camp. Tibetan Buddhists developed dream yoga not just as a curiosity, but as a path to enlightenment, treating dreams as training grounds for awareness and compassion. Indigenous communities share dream stories in ritual circles, weaving them into group identity and survival strategies. To dismiss dreams as nonsense, in that worldview, would be like tossing out your spiritual compass. And then there's the middle ground. Maybe dreams don't mean anything in the prophetic sense, but they still do something useful. Memory consolidation, emotion regulation, threat simulation, all functions that keep you sharper, calmer, and more resilient. Even if the flying crocodile dream isn't delivering cosmic wisdom, it might be helping your brain rehearse flexibility or file emotional paperwork. The debate doesn't stop in academia. Everyday dreamers split too. Some shrug their shoulders, saying, "It was just random junk." Others cling to vivid dreams for years, convinced they revealed something about themselves or even shaped their choices. Entire industries, dream dictionaries, therapy practices, even sleep tech apps rely on the belief that dreams matter. If they didn't, nobody would be paying money to analyze them. Historians still argue whether Freud's insistence that dreams are meaningful was revolutionary insight or self-indulgent speculation. Jung's archetypes, too, sit in this liminal space between science and myth. Critics dismiss them as vague symbols that can fit anything. Supporters insist they capture truths too slippery for neuroscience alone. And maybe that's the crux of it. Dreams sit in the uncomfortable middle. They're not fully explainable by science, but they're too consistent and universal to ignore. They're both noise and signal, both glitch and guidance. The brain's nightly experiments don't hand you clear lab reports. They hand you riddles, some worth keeping, others worth forgetting. So do dreams matter? If you ask the skeptical neuroscientist, maybe not. If you ask the Tibetan monk, absolutely. If you ask your dog twitching in its sleep, who knows? But if you ask yourself, well, consider how many of your own dreams have lingered, shaped your mood, or given you a story you couldn't shake. Meaning may not lie in the dream itself, but in what you choose to do with it afterward. So as you curl deeper into the night, let the chalkboards and arguments fade. Whether dreams are cosmic telegrams, emotional rehearsals, or just brain static, the fact remains, you keep having them. They keep haunting, inspiring, or amusing you. Maybe the real experiment isn't about what dreams are. Maybe it's about how you live with them once you wake. The chalkboards fade into dust, and now the dreamscape goes darker. No paintings, no monsters, no gods or algorithms. Just black, as if the theater of your mind has finally closed its curtains. Because while so much of sleep is filled with wild experiments, sometimes what you get is nothing. Dreamless sleep, the void. You've probably had nights like this. Head hits the pillow, alarm rings, and you wake with no memory in between. 8 hours vanish in a blink. Scientists call this slow-wave sleep, the deepest stage of non-REM, when your brain sinks into slow delta rhythms and the outside world disappears. Here, the dream projector is either switched off or dimmed so low you don't notice. Your body, however, is busy. Growth hormone surges. Immune cells get to work. The glymphatic system flushes out toxins. Dreamless sleep may feel like nothing, but biologically it's everything. Historians still argue whether ancient philosophers recognized this blank state. Aristotle wrote about a dreamless sleep as the truest form of rest, while some Buddhist traditions treat dreamless awareness as a step toward enlightenment, where even the mind's chatter dissolves. In those practices, dreamless sleep isn't nothingness. It's a glimpse of pure consciousness. Quirky tidbit. In the 17th century, French philosopher René Descartes claimed he could distinguish dream states from dreamless sleep because the latter contained no images, no thoughts. Yet modern neuroscience suggests that even so-called dreamless states sometimes have faint, non-visual experiences. Sensations of floating, of presence, of timelessness. The void might not be empty after all. But here's the puzzle. Do you really not dream in these stretches, or do you just fail to remember? Some researchers argue dreams are constant, with only recall fluctuating. Others claim true dreamless periods exist, where consciousness shuts down entirely. The debate continues, with brain scans offering tantalizing but incomplete clues. The absence of evidence in this case feels a lot like evidence of absence, until someone wakes from deep sleep and says, "Actually, I dreamed of a gray nothing." Dreamless sleep is paradoxical. It feels instant, yet lasts hours. It feels empty, yet rejuvenates your entire system. It erases you, yet restores you. And perhaps that's why so many spiritual traditions treat it with reverence. To vanish into nothing and return whole, it's a little rehearsal for death and a quiet reminder of life. So as you drift now, maybe you'll dream, maybe you won't. If visions come, they'll carry symbols, emotions, riddles. If void comes, it will cradle you in silence. Either way, the brain's secret experiments continue, whether in vivid color or pure black. You don't need to steer it. You don't need to understand it. You just need to let go. And now, as our long journey through the dream laboratory closes, it's time for a gentle wind down. The pace slows. Your breath is calm, steady, a tide rolling in and out. Picture yourself floating in that soft darkness, weightless, safe. The edges of thought blur like ink dissolving into water. The noise of the day, all its questions and debates, sinks away. There's no need to chase answers now. No need to solve or remember. The brain is working quietly like a patient craftsman, whether you notice or not. You might imagine yourself lying on a raft, drifting across a black sea, the stars above fading one by one. Or in a forest, fireflies flickering until even their glow softens and the night folds over you. Every muscle is loose, every worry postponed. Your mind hums in the background, running its secret experiments, but you don't have to watch. You just have to rest. So close your eyes. Let the void or the dream or both hold you. You've traveled far tonight, from gods and philosophers to labs and algorithms, from cheese-fueled nightmares to lucid flight. Now all of it dissolves into a single, soothing truth. You are safe to sleep. And with that, let the curtain close, the projector dim, the stage go silent. Sweet dreams or sweet dreamlessness. Either way, your brain will take care of the rest.